everyone. Lot of people coming in right now. Hi, good morning,
Hello.
good evening, good afternoon. Where are you from? Hello.
Wow.
Oh, okay, we're just gonna give it like a few minutes for people to join in. There are quite a few. So as people join in, we request you to introduce yourself on chat. Tell us your name and where you're from, where you're joining us from today, and what's your role, what are your passions or interests. I can see that Ms. Rashmi has said she's unable to hear. So you need to turn on. Please go to the mic option and say connect to audio. You would need to connect to audio. You would need to connect to the audio. Miss Suja.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, I am Sucha Doylan. I am currently working at Oakheart Global School as a PYP 3 homeroom. So I will be with Ms. Abhishri today, co-hosting this session. I'm very happy to be with you all because this is my first year as IB teacher, and I'm very excited to share my learning, share my journey with you all. And also I'm looking forward to learn from all of your experiences. So yeah, I'm waiting for the session.
Yeah. So what I'm just doing is I am just admitting people because a lot of people are still coming in. So okay. 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 So let's dive in. So today, as you all know, the session is on assessment and pedagogy. My name is Abhishri, and I was working at Oakheart Global School as a PYP team lead. I have been in the IB for the past 5 years. I started my career here in the IB, teaching in the IB. And today's session is aimed at delving a little deeper into what is assessment and the pedagogy of IB PYP all about. It's important to note that today's session is not only specific to the online learning scenario. That is why if you had seen the title, I had not mentioned online anywhere, because it is important. There have been some really amazing talks already about how learning assessment looks like in the primary years. KT Steers did a beautiful session on how PYP in the lower elementary years look like. Today we will be looking at a blend of both, because we started the year like everybody else, and in a face-to-face scenario, and we ended it in an online scenario. So the takeaways from our session would not be specific only to the online scenario, and I hope you all are cool with that. If you're all cool with that, please interact and give me a thumbs up. So there will be some aspects of it that we can definitely take up into the online learning scenario, and we'll reflect on that at the end of the session. And today's session is all a sharing session. It's not one person trying to tell the other person that this is good or this is bad. Like Lenny has pointed out in her IB Ed chat, it's very, very important that this is not a workshop. It is a sharing platform. It is a place where we can bounce ideas off each other and just leave the room with new ideas that never existed in our mind before this. With no further ado, let me start with today's session. So that's a quirky picture of us trying to teach, both of us in the same classroom, and we are teachers who like to, dance around in the classroom, I suppose. So, oops, there are people still joining. Miss Suja, I'm going to make you the host for now, so that
Yes,
you can
yes,
take
Mr.
care of
Abish.
that since I'll be presenting.
Yes, yes, sure.
Miss Suja is now the. Yeah. Okay. So, very first thing, thank you for all you people, wonderful people who have commented on the Padlet. I can see a lot of questions there, which we will definitely come to at the end of the session. As we go through, I would like you to go back, keep those Padlets open and add or comment or upvote anything, or if there are any new questions that are coming up, please interact with that Padlet and, we can go ahead from there. And hi to every single person who has joined. We have 90 participants today from various locations. Welcome everybody to this interesting session. First things first, assessment. What is it? Let's start, brainstorming. What is it? Why is it done? How do we assess? And when do we assess? So you can have your. There are three ways in which we are going to interact. One is the chat. One is the Padlet, and other would be face-to-face interactions as well. So 3 ways in which we would be interacting. So those who want to talk live, please raise your hands and let's start the interaction. What is it? And how do you assess and when do you assess? Jump in, guys. Yes, Miss Medina.
Yes.
Yeah, I think assessment is for us for knowing our next step, like where we are, what should do like next, or how did I teach very well. I mean, for knowing our next step.
Okay, thank you for that. Any next person can just jump in.
Hi, Abhishek.
Hi.
I do feel assessment is to know for us to how much the students are understanding what we are actually teaching in the classroom or what they are learning.
Wow. Okay. So it is to inform us basically. Any other view?
Assessment is done to measure students' learning.
Okay. So measurement is an important aspect of it. Thank you for lifting that up.
And it tells us also where to go next. It's really important for knowing where to go next, and not just knowing if we've done a good job, but knowing what our next steps are.
Okay. So,
Okay, Abhishek.
informs us of our next steps. Yes.
I want to say that as our planner is not fixed, it's flexible. So assessment help us to know where our child is and what tools we need to use and how our teaching and learning are, working. So assessment is for that, I feel.
Yeah, Abhishek, I want to add here. Assessment is just to check how much they have learned and which are the places they need to improve.
Okay. Thank you. For
Sorry,
that.
I would like to add.
Hi, Abhish.
Okay. Sorry.
So maybe if what we can do is, there are so many participants here today. If we can, try to raise hands, and I will be scrolling through. Ms. Suja will be scrolling through, and we'll ask you, and we can respond like that. Otherwise, with such a huge number, it's going to get a little confusing.
Yeah.
If we can shift our focus to the next question, from what is assessment, because I have heard that assessment is important for us to know what our next steps are. It is important for reporting. It tells us how well we are doing as well in terms of the teaching. So then, how do we assess, and when do we assess? If we can shift our focus to the next two questions, how do we assess and when do we assess?
I would say, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I would say it's like assessment is definitely monitoring, and we monitor the child from the time he enters or in front of us. What differs is basically what we document or what we measure and we report. So what we measure and we report is definitely limited, but what we monitor and what we assess is everything and anything what it comes in front of us, starting from whether it is skill level, that is observation, to any tool we do it. So it doesn't matter, it's like assessment is every time, anytime and everywhere, What differs is basically, even the IB says, the enhanced version also says monitoring is a bigger picture, documenting is little lesser, and measuring and recording is again little lesser. So when do we assess is we assess all the time, says, but what do we report and what do we measure and record? And report is limited. That is your formative and your summative. So I think that is, assessment is every time and any time.
Thank you, Ms. Tanu, for bringing that up, which, kind of takes us back. I think all of us have a mental picture of the infographic that has been shared by the IB, the one that talks about monitoring, documenting, and reporting. And yes. So thank you, Ms. Tanu, for summarizing that really well. So, which means when exactly do we assess? Some more ideas from other people on when exactly do we assess? And
well, I'd like to come back to how do we assess. I think it's really important that the assessment is authentic and that it means something to the children. And it's not just an assessment that's brought in from another place. The assessment needs to be authentic. It also needs to cater to different learning styles so that you're getting the best out of everybody. And of course, in the when do you assess, I suppose to a great extent, you assess at the times you feel are important. It won't always be at a specific time. There'll be summative assessment, but the formative assessment can be all sorts of different things.
okay, thank you for bringing up that point about catering to different learners. It's very, very important that the assessment caters to all different kinds of learners, and without that, our children would find themselves quite lost when we are conducting the different assessments. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, Abhishri, I think the pre-assessment is also very crucial. If you have to differentiate, then we need to do the pre-assessment, only then the differentiations. So, and also your planning gets better if you know where your students stand.
Wonderful. Thank you for bringing up the importance of that. Other thoughts?
And I would just want to add on that assessment is not only for teachers, it is also for students also, because they set their own goals. There is something called as feedback and feed forward. So if I take something feedback for myself, the students also take feedback for themselves. And feed forward is something which they decide, setting goals. When agency is coming into picture, we cannot say assessment has to be only for teacher or teacher design it. It is mutually designed or student designed. So that differentiation cater to when we assess them, and constructivism only comes when you assess yourself, you feedback and you feed forward, and you set goals, you achieve it, you move forward, and that makes assessment a beautiful picture into it. It becomes a normal part of assessment. That is why they have got assessment as a learning rather than only for learning or this learning. So as a learning is right now, which has made so much of a difference, I would say, in so much of so many years of working, I see that assessment as learning is now made us a different picture, looking all together assessment, which is so beautiful.
Yeah, I would also like to bring your focus to the chat. There are some very interesting points that are coming up on the chat as well. I am so glad that people are interacting with the chat platform. Yes, this session is recorded and it will be put up as well. And it is quite interesting to see that Ms. Nasreen has said that it is to find out the strengths and weaknesses. Assessment is not only about, okay, I'm done, let me move forward. It is about looking at what are the strengths of my learners? What are their weaknesses? How do I then feed forward? How do I plan further then? Right? And if there are any specialists in the audience, please, pitch in as to what assessment would look like in a specialist scenario as well. Yeah. Yes, Manisha is raising her hand. Please go ahead. You need to unmute yourself, Ms. Manisha.
Is I audible?
Yes.
Hello everyone, here I work with the Indian International School, which is in Bangalore, where I'm working with the PSP. So when this topic come like how do we assist, for my field, basically I always be prepared with you can say on a piece of paper, a pocket diary, where I keep, as soon as my class start, I just keep absorbing my kids, that whether they are interested in my class or not. The main thing is that automatically I get the feedback from my lesson that when my children are enjoying it, I get to know myself like, yeah, they learned it, where they enjoyed it, and I can connect it. Like I can know that, yeah, here is my part to be, assessed. There I need to be working this part, and at the same time I keep assisting my child by name, by giving the name. Okay, this day he had done very nicely, she had done very nicely. I can be grade on my skill, where my skill he is working or she is working on it. Right, because someday some kids have a more interest about the particular topic when I'm taking. Someday the same child is like, I don't want to do it. They are very straightforward on your face, where you need to be understand. Okay, child is not interested in this class. Might be he's interested somewhere else. Same way, what I do is then I can execute my B plan. B plan is what? Something that I can do. My task will be, my goal will be the same. My aim will be the same. But the situation, I'll make it do it by the kids. I'll put the hurdles kind of, I'll make the barriers for him. Okay, I have to be do a relay. Then, the things will be changed. Okay, I can, because they have always having some competitive level. Like I will be first, or, they will fight for it. Not fight, you can say, they will get the competition in that. So they learn it, where it will be for me, it will be easy for me to assist them.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Manisha, for bringing up that part of, I would say, social emotional learning, wherein is my child ready to be assessed today? Does he want to give in, or does he want to participate in the assessment? That is so very important, because that probably influences how they perform, and it is very important to consider that. I can hear some background noise. If request yourselves to go on mute unless you want to say something. Yeah. Now, without further ado, there have been a lot of things that have been shared in the chat as well, and you guys can interact through that. Let's delve a little bit deeper. What are the characteristics of assessment? I mean, we have spoken in general about what is it, how is it supposed to be. So what are those characteristics that you would look for? There was a question that asked, how do I assess? Now, when the question of how do I assess comes up, then the next part of it comes, the next part of the question becomes very, very relevant. What are the characteristics? When I look at a piece of assessment, how do I know that it's an assessment? What are those characteristics? Inputs, please. What are the characteristics of assessment? What are our thoughts on what the characteristics of assessment are?
It should be linked to the learning outcome that we are looking at. Basically, I think it should be directed towards that.
Okay.
Okay, so
it can be also be it's not only the learning outcomes you have assessed, it's like the skill also, what skill you are being targeting in the end of the day, including the knowledge component. Definitely it's part of it. The skill of a person, you're assessing the skill as well as both the things. So even the concept, at times you judge, you monitor what is the level of understanding of the concept. So basically all the core components of the IB, what you have it, I think that is what you assess and you report on that. So assessment is, because anything you look forward to it, you always look forward to it. Okay, look at the skill level of a child, look at the knowledge level of the child, what is the understanding of the concept, and in the end you judge, okay, whether my learner profiles has been targeted or not. I think the simple, I guess for me it is always that way. I check the skill, I check the knowledge component, okay, the conceptual understanding is fine and all. And then I say, okay, fine, my learner profile, which learner profile has he targeted, what is the level of understanding, and then that is what is I report.
I think it should also be differentiated, because it's important that everyone can in their own way explain and given their learning. Otherwise, if you have everyone doing the same, the end product is the same for all, then probably one child may not be able to do it and he's not able to show his learning. So differentiation is very crucial at this point of time.
I think it needs to be collaborative as well, where both students and teachers can participate in the overall development of the assessment, and they also participate in the evaluation process as well. So this collaboration needs to be very, very important in this development. And also differentiation comes out when there are a variety of tools and strategies through which we assess kids, so as to give a clear picture of where the child is standing, what is the level, and how we can give the feedback on the current learning, and how we can give its speed forward, like where to move next and how the child can improve further.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Anybody else would like to add?
I think the assessment should be challenging as well.
Hello.
Like most of the time,
I feel assessment is.
Oops, I think there were two people who were
Yeah.
talking at the same time. Sorry. If Miss Ritu can go first and the other person can go next, yes.
Yeah, so I think assessment should be challenging as well, because the time we say differentiation, most of the time we majorly focus on the average level. We we underestimate the higher level and the lower level. So somewhere I really think the challenge part should be there in all the assessments.
Okay, thank you. Yep. The other person who pitched in, please, you lift up your point. I'm sorry, we are not able to hear you very clearly.
Surovi.
Miss Suja, are you able to figure
Yes.
out who is talking? Because I'm not able to see who is talking and we're not able to hear her clearly.
Surovi is talking.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry for that. I think technical glitches are there. The internet connection is not that great for everybody. So, if your internet connection is not too good, please feel free to type in on the chat, and we will save and send the chat to everybody as well. Right. So, do not feel that you cannot interact because you're not audible. Right. So now that we have started some ideas going, let's delve into the next part of this chat, which is going to be, we have picked up certain characteristics of assessment, and we would be getting your inputs on how you are seeing that characteristic of assessment in your classroom. Okay, so we will lift up aspects or characteristics of assessment, and you can talk about how that looks in your classroom. What are the ideas? What are some tools, some strategies that you can use to deliver or to implement that characteristic? Over to you, Ms. Suja.
Yeah, the first characteristics that we have in focus for the day is authentic. So we know what authentic is. We know how to be authentic, and we know how to keep things authentic. But what does authentic means in terms of assessment? How can we make our assessments authentic? Any ideas? Let's keep the platform open for the discussion.
Maybe to make connections with the real world.
Yes. But yes.
But connecting to the concepts and the skills that were at hand, I think it's authentic.
Okay. Can somebody talk about
When-
how? Yes, please continue, ma'am.
When students initiate an assessment, so that could be authentic too. Students initiated.
Student initiated assessments. Okay. Can somebody talk about? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hi. So I think assessment is authentic when, like a lot of people said, when students connect to it, and it's very important that it's relevant to what they're doing. It's connected to their skills, to the concepts, to the knowledge component, if you wish to, and making it differentiated. Catering it to the needs of the students in your class is going to make it even more authentic.
Yes, very true, ma'am. Can somebody talk about how you have made your assessment practices authentic within your classroom? Any insights into it?
Well, see, I have tried to, involve my students in planning for the assessment in terms of designing the task, in terms of designing the rubric. So that's really helped me in making it more authentic.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Like you all shared with us, authentic is to help the students make connection to the real world and promote student engagement throughout the process of assessment. So that is what it means to be authentic. So here is a sneak peek into our classroom. Um, we just want to show how we have tried in making our assessment process authentic to the students.
Yeah.
Next
So
slide.
some interesting chats coming on there. Keep it going and let's delve into our classroom.
Welcome to our classroom.
Goda, settle down. Okay, so that was just a sneak peek into the video. So it's a 5-minute video and we would be sharing that on our Padlet. Generally, when people think of assessment, this is not the scenario that comes into the minds of people. Assessments, you think of pen and paper or even maybe a skit or, we have, delved into performance assessments a lot. But this was one of our assessments and the focus was whether they are able to recognize and use simple machines to perform. Right, so this was a unit wherein they were inquiring into simple machines, and we wanted to know: are they able to recognize it? Are they able to use it? And are they able to perform how a simple machine works through, moving like that? One more point that we were definitely looking at is clarity in explanation. I'm sure you must have seen. So this is almost 40 children. We had combined 2 sections together into the lawn. We had brought them out. We wanted to use the space to make it more authentic for them, to help them free up their minds. And they were taking on simple machines or machines that they see in the real world around them and trying to act like that. So in the meanwhile, me, Miss Suja, Miss Zarina, and Miss Ekta, we were all around looking at, are they using the vocabulary? Are they explaining clearly? What are they struggling with? How, where do we need to support them? So most of you are familiar with assessment for learning, and this is something that we tried to achieve here. It was not an end point, but it was just, to twist and turn and to tweak their paths as they went along. Now, let's go into the next characteristic of assessment. Before we move on, any thoughts or any observations or any way in which you would like to take this practice into your classroom? Any thoughts on that? You can say.
Yeah, may I speak?
Yes.
Abhishri. Hi Abhishri, hi Suja, and hi everyone else. So this was I taught grade 1 last year, and I attended this workshop called Words That Move. It's a workshop by Susan Griss, and how you integrate movement to teach concepts. So I attended the English one though. So when I went back to class, we had to do this reading assessment every month, where we assess students on through a comprehension, or basically they need to read a book and maybe do some kind of comprehension or some kind of activity. So when I went back this time, I decided to leave it out, or leave it to the open to the kids, where they decided whether they wanted to use movement to talk about their understanding of the story, whether they wanted to illustrate their understanding of the story. So students, I had students who created comic strips of the same story. I had students who did illustrations. I had students who acted out, as in used movement like actual movement. So I saw a lot of again here me and my co-tutor went around making sure that the actual understanding of the story, that they've comprehended the story by asking them a lot of questions. So I think that was it took a long time. Authentic assessments take a long time. It is much more complex than a simple paper pencil comprehension question test. But yeah, it is more relevant to the students, and it's fun when they are engaged in it.
I absolutely agree with what you just shared. It's much more, difficult and different than the traditional paper and pen. I agree with you.
Okay. Anybody else would like to think of very quickly how you would want to take a movement integration or a movement aspect of your assessment back into your classroom? Anyone else who would like to share? Okay. So if there isn't, then we'll move along to the second characteristic. So the second characteristic that we want to talk about and get some perspective and get some ideas from all of you is how to make our assessment clear and specific. Because that is one of the main characteristics of a good assessment, is that it is clear and specific. So what are your thoughts on that? How can we make our assessment clear and specific?
Abhishek, can I?
Yes, Michelle.
Yeah. First thing, when I see about the clear and specific, when we are making rubrics, okay, when we are thinking about the rubrics, the language we need to use, then we have to think about our child, and when they are reading the rubrics, they will be clear the task what we are keeping. It should be their age level. So that things come to my mind.
Okay.
May I say something as well?
Okay, fine.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So assessment can be clear and specific when you co-construct it with the students, because then the criteria comes from them and they understand it better because they own the criteria, they own the assessment. And some like the person who spoke before me, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but you're right. The language is also very important. You need to use the similar language that they will understand. And as teachers, I think we need to set expectations very clearly. But if you co-construct assessments or you co-construct anything with them, it becomes much more clear, and the clarity and the specificity of that particular task is much more, it's better than us designing it.
So without much further ado, then let's look at what clear and specific assessment is described as. It is described as including desired learning goals, success criteria, and the process students use to learn. So these are marks of a clear and specific assessment. And over to you, Ms. Suja.
Yes. Again, yes, I
Hello?
think somebody
Yeah,
wanted
sorry,
to
I
share.
just wanted to share one small thing. I see a lot of, I think it's because we all come from the traditional schooling system where we weren't, people never took us through assessments. I think it's very important that as a teacher, before you expect your students to do the assessment, it's very important to go through the assessment with them before they start doing it. It's not like helping them. I don't know, I'm falling short of the right words to say, but I think that's something very important. I see a lot of teachers not doing that because they feel assessment hai, they need to know it, right? But the point is taking them through the assessment so they know what actually is expected.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up, that it's so important for children to know what is the expectation. What am I expected to do? If you tell me, show me your understanding on simple machines, what am I supposed to do? And Ms. Suja, if you can take them through this rubric.
Yes, I think that beautifully ties up with what we wanted to just show them. The rubric that is right in front of you right now is something that our students had in their hand throughout the process of the final summative assessment. if you look into the rubric, it gives a clear-cut instruction of what is the desired learning goal that we have set for them, what is that they have to meet by the end of the assessment process, and what is the process that they have to follow. Everything is put in such simple words. It is made very clear to the students. They can have this as a checklist with them throughout the process, ensure that they are reaching every goal. So this is that we tried making assessment clear and specific for our students. Another example is for the unit how we sharing our planet. For the unit sharing our planet, the final assessment we had for them was based on problem solving abilities. And this is how we tried making it more specific and more getting the students attention on the process of the assessment itself by giving them specific guided questions. If you look into the questions are very specific. The questions shows what is the desired learning outcome that they have to meet, and it also takes them through the process very clearly. So these are the two ways that we have tried making our assessment processes specific and clear to our students.
Right. So thank you, Ms. Suja, for that. One more thing that I would like to add here, which one of you really beautifully brought up, was that the language of assessment should be very, very simple. And the reason this rubric looks the way it does, it was not just handed over to them. We sat with them and we broke down the expectations along with them. So when I say name of my machine as heading, it came from them, right? We might have tweaked the words a little bit, but everything came from them. And we also connected back to the poster making skills that they have learned in their art class to construct this along with them for the process.
And also it's very important to have all of these instructions in the child's language itself so that they feel more connected. They understand what is expected out of them.
Absolutely. So without much further ado, the next characteristic, what is that?
Okay, the next characteristic that we are focusing on is developmental. How can we make the process of assessment developmental? How can we help the child develop through the process of assessments? Any thoughts?
I think basically if you self-reflect and give the chance for child to self-reflect, because obviously when you have the rubrics which is co-constructed by a child, the child knows the set goals for that. And sometimes in our school, what we do, we have made the ATLs also in the student-friendly language. So what happens is even the ATL, which is usually a driving force for usually for my classes or generally in our school also, we have made it and co-constructed it along with the student-friendly language. So now when student is giving feedback and they know the feed forward developmental, the constructivism, if it is along with the student, they know automatically where they will be developing. And initially, obviously, when the end product is where we go is learner profile. So if it is developmental, obviously it makes you reach there because it is co-constructed with the student and they take the ownership and they have the own choices of doing it.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up.
And somebody also has mentioned here in the chat saying that we should assess not only a product but the process as well. So yeah, I think they're connecting it with assessment being developmental. Yes, it's very important to assess the process as well, just than the product. That's a very good insight to the discussion.
I think what you said, Suja, is very true, because I think IB is all about processes. IB is all about inquiry itself is a process. So assessing the end product does not really show us the true picture of what it is all about, because an assessment when assessed as a process brings out much more than what the end product will always bring out. It will always be more. There'll be more skills. There'll be so much that the end product won't show you. The end product could be just a poem, but it will not show you what thought process I went through or the kid went through to write that poem. what words they use, who they talked about it, which books they used to look at those words. So it's that assessing that process is very, very important.
Very.
Thank you. I would like to pick up something that Miss Lisa has put up, that you need to have assessments geared towards the age and stage of your student, with differentiation for students who are below age ability as well as students who are above age ability. This is where the scope and sequence documents are crucial. Thank you, Ms. Lisa, for bringing up the role of scope and sequence document in making an assessment developmental. If you see, IB has very thoughtfully not categorized it into age groups, but into phases. So your child might be in any of the phase, and the scope and sequence document is one document that can help you make assessments more developmental. So basically, it focuses on an individual student's progress rather than the performance in relation to others, right? That is the basic thing. When your assessment is developmental, you are not comparing, oh, he did it but you didn't do it, because it is about the individual's progress, like what Ms. Lisa said, and not about how one is doing with respect to the other. Let's delve into our classroom. Ms. Suja.
Yes. So this is an example of the unit, how we express ourselves, under which the students were inquiring into literature. Showing the child has developed her understanding of the learning objective. So you can see that in the beginning, the kid did not have a very good understanding of the learning objective, but then she has achieved it through teacher support and peer support. And also she has moved a step forward in applying her learning, which she did it in a bit later stage. But yes, that was application was not our learning focus. It was not our learning objective, but then we do not restrict the child to what we call as learning objective. We always encourage and motivate the kids to move beyond that and apply. There's another example of activity.
Because internet is a little bit spotty, I suppose, so I would take on for a little bit here. So as Ms. Suja brought up very appropriately, this is an example of how we made assessments developmental. The task, there were a series of learning engagements that were designed to achieve this learning objective. And as you see, one of the children here has been able to achieve this only at the end, which is the third engagement. Now let's look at a second example. This is another child in the same classroom who went through the same three learning engagements. However, the way we made it developmental for her is, in the very first engagement, this child was able to meet the learning objective of identifying elements of poetry. So then what did we do for her? We gave her some extra scaffolding in terms of making the task more challenging. And at the end of the third engagement, where we saw her was being able to apply all of these elements very effectively in the poetry. Okay, so this is a way that we made assessment developmental in our own classroom. Nowhere did we stop the the girl who could go one step beyond, and nowhere did we say that, oh my god, she's gone one step beyond, so you have to scale up, because our learning objective was very, very, very clear. So the next one, before we go on to the next one, any thoughts or any ideas on how you would like to make your assessment developmental in the classroom? Maybe got a little inspired from ideas.
I think probably our learning outcomes should be broad enough to give that scope to move backward, because until unless it is too specific, sometimes being too specific, it narrows down the process. So I think developmental, or if you want to make it anything developmental, we have to keep it very broad, open-ended, So it automatically gives a scope for a child for differentiation, as well as to move, as you said, what you were saying is, move to the next level or the below level or whatever. So until and unless the scope or the outcome is broad and open-ended, it gives all the scope to be authentic, to be clear, as well as constructivist comes into picture. So I think if we make it our own learning outcomes little more broad and open-ended, things become little more easier and simpler for us to give that scope for child to give that challenging work.
Yes, Ms. Tanu, thank you for that. Any other thoughts from any other person who's not yet spoken, maybe? Anyone would like to pitch in? Okay, let's move ahead into the next characteristic. The next characteristic of assessment is
collaborative. So being teachers, this is one word that we use on an everyday basis. We know what is collaborative in terms of teaching. We know what is collaborative in terms of planning. We do a lot of collaboration every single minute, every single day. But what is collaboration? How do we in the process of assessment? Any insights?
So can I talk?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't have all extrovert students. If we have the project based or presenting something, it's better to have the collaborative assessment, because when one child, one student, she or he has a difficult with introducing himself or presenting something, with the help of his or her friends, she can overcome this habit, and actually it will be better for improving their caring skills, sharing skills, all kinds of the skills, and also planning their own projects. Especially I do it in my classroom too many times. If I see that I have not social students, who is sitting silently, who doesn't talk to each other, and especially another side who always likes arguing or fighting, it's better to have, to make them collaborate and to explain them it's better to work together, and you can finish the work easily when you work together.
Hi, Abhishri.
Hi, ma'am.
Yes, Ms. Bhavna.
Abhishri, I feel that few students in I'll talk about my class. There are few students who are introvert and they may feel hesitate while explaining what they have understood. So when we collaborate, when we group them in a group, the child can explain to his friend that what he has understood, what about all the assessment, and the child can help, other friend can help, as agreed with Madina. So the child express what he has understood. So the working collaborative will help a child to explain what he, and we can even assess the child using this method. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for lifting that up, Ms. Bhavna. Anyone else before we jump into how collaborative, or what is the description of collaborative learning? Because all of our descriptions are right. There is nothing wrong, and that's the beauty of the IB itself, that one idea can be interpreted in so many different ways. So it was very interesting to see the perspectives that all of you had about collaborative assessments. So thank you for lifting that up.
Abhishri?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, I just want to say about the collaboration. One thing which happened in my class, we were just going to have our SLC. Okay, so before that we were having collaboration with our students, and then we asked we teachers thought we will do this idea for SLC. What do you want? So one of our child said that I want to show Mama Papa these books which I read, and how come I came to the understanding of this unit. So this idea, when we were, usually we always collaborate. So I really love this idea, and this actually on that day SLC, they were reading those books and they were saying how I got the understanding of the unit of this line of inquiry about this topic, so about the concept. So they were actually showing their learning process. So this collaboration always helps. So somewhere student SLC also helps us.
Thank you for sharing that experience, Ms. Shilpa. I'm sure that would have given some idea.
Hello.
Yes. Who's okay? Yes, please go
Hi,
ahead.
Abhishri. I wanted to say something. It's me, Nilima.
Yes.
Actually, in my class, like what skills of the student, like whenever I give some group task, so always I make sure, in that group of 4 or 5, whatever, the students, like, one student with the strong thinking level, strong research skills, or, good with the writing, good with presentation. So this is how I collaborate my team, like a group, when I give some group tasks.
Definitely. Thank you for bringing up the importance of group tasks in assessment, because it's quite easy for us to get carried away that, oh my God, I need to document this. I need evidence for every child, and shy away from, group assessments. So thank you for bringing that up. Now let's dive into our classroom, or how one of the ways in which we promote collaborative assessments, and it has been brought up by almost a lot of people here. One major thing being peer assessment. Ms. Suja, if you'd like to talk about that.
Yes, the example that is right in front of you is of the peer assessment. If you're wondering why the structuring of rubric looks like this comparing to the ones that were showed before, that is because this entire by students. Okay, they took the lead of the entire.
Asked you for a minute. Can you please repeat that?
Okay, this rubric is completely constructed by the students. The entire assessment process was driven by they were the one who chose their success criteria. They were the one who formed the entire rubric they put in this format. They are the one who assess their peers as well. As you can see, a group of 4 people, and each group was assessed by the rest of the other 3 groups. What did we achieve by allowing students to do this? Students became an equal part of the assessment process. That is all. That is what collaboration means. It is not that I as a teacher have to design the assessment, design the criteria, and check students, assess students based on the criteria. No. Collaboration means the child has the equal say in selecting his assessment, style of assessment, and what needs to be assessed, also to assess himself or his peers. So that is one opportunity that we have provided here, and the example of that is in front of you.
I would also like to lift up group 1. If you can see, there are certain things for which they have been very, very honest and given 2 stars, right? How did we deal with that, and why has the teacher given a 4-star there? Probably they were being far too critical about their own performance, and this gave us an opportunity to act, or maybe we just did not know how a well-organized piece of work looks like, and we definitely went to group 1 and facilitated that understanding of what good organization looks like. The next one.
Yes, this is an example of assessment where not the teachers, not the students, but the yes, we also pulled parents into this process because they are one of the important stakeholders of the community. So this assessment was structured in such a way that 2 success criteria were selected by the teacher, and every 3rd success criteria was selected by the student himself. So this is a very personalized rubric. And on the assessment day, we had parents walking in. We had parents having conversation with students, having discussions with their students, having dialogues with the students, and assessing them. Everything that is marked on this rubric is done by the parent, not by the teachers. So this also beautifully ties back to assessment being not just pen and paper, or not just between the teacher and the student, not just the student telling what he has learned or what he has understood. it focuses on assessment being a dialogue, a conversation, and a collaboration in itself.
So I would also like to lift up how
bring up something somebody has shared in on the chat.
Sorry, Ms. Suja, we lost you. That's why I pitched in.
Yeah. I would like to bring up something very interesting that somebody shared in the beginning of the session on the chat. They said that assessment means to sit with the students throughout the process of their learning. Yes, that is where when a teacher, when a parent, part of the learning process of the learning, that is where the collaboration comes into picture.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Ms. Krishna has brought up a question that our rubric had more of skills. What is it that we were assessing when we did that?
Oh, okay. This rubric or the one before this?
The one before this. This one.
Okay. So the task was a group presentation. They had their task done. They had collated standing on a poster. That was the process of assessment. And the final stage of that was,
oops, I'm so sorry.
testing the work group.
Sorry, we couldn't able to hear Suja properly.
Yeah, we are not able to hear her.
I'm so sorry for the technical problems. Can you hear me now? Yeah. So the assessment was task. The final task of assessment was a presentation, group presentation. Students were in group of 4s. Like I told you, this entire rubric is being created by the students. So when they were first thrown into the process of creating a rubric, constructing a rubric, that is what they focused on. So because they knew that we were assessing out the process, I had my anecdotes in place throughout the process.
Ms. Suja, maybe you want to reposition yourself because we are losing you a lot.
Yeah.
I just let me just jump in. And there was Ms. Kirtida very validly pointed out one aspect which I would like to open up in the forum, that that this talks about the skills, but it needs to be more specific. And I think that is why Ms. Krishna also brought up what was this thing about. So we would be coming back to this aspect a little later on as to why this rubric looks the checklist looks the way it does. For the very first thing is that this is the first time these children had constructed a checklist for themselves. Their very, very first try. Okay, so we did not want to intervene way too much and take out from their process, because we needed to establish a sense of trust between us and the student, right? So if we were going to change everything, right, they would give up, or they would lose the motivation to create such things for themselves. So not only did we want them to come up with a rubric, we also wanted to do that trust building aspect as well, right? And the rubrics that they constructed later on, like for example, this one, as you can see the criteria in this one, this was also generated by the students, but at a later unit. That was the first or second unit, and this was the fourth unit. You can see how their criteria kind of develops, and they're able to be more elaborate in that aspect. Hope that answers both of your questions, and let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
The next characteristic, the third last characteristic that we're going to look at is how to make our assessments more interactive, because it is a characteristic that is very, very important. I'd like to pace up the chat a little bit here because we are running out of time. So I would be going through these things a little bit more quickly and maybe getting a few lesser responses so that we can, conclude the chat properly. So interactive assessment is assessment that encompasses ongoing and iterative dialogues about learning. It should be ongoing, and it should, it should be a dialogue, like what Ms. Suja, brought up or spoke about in the beginning. So any ideas on how you can make your assessment ongoing and iterative in your classrooms? We would like people to talk about ongoing assessments and iterative dialogues as a characteristic of good assessments. Yes.
Can I say?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Probably if we go more of peer assessment, more of self-reflection where they have. So I think in my class, I quite often do it. So it gives me a lot of opportunity for children to peer assess themselves on through the process, not only on the final thing, on through the process, almost on the everyday basis, on a different perspective based on their goals. So that makes it more interactive and, like a natural process, not in terms of assessment per assessment. That fear is not there, and they're like, okay, it's a normal casual assessment and they're getting a feedback and it just happens. So it is like more of peer assessments really work for me well.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else? There are some voices that we've just not heard. Please unmute yourselves and talk. We would love to hear what you have to say. Right? How do you make assessments ongoing and iterative in your, classroom? How do you have that dialogue?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. To my mind, that we should review all the assessment after the unit of inquiry or something like that, according to students' feedbacks. So according to the reflection. So sometimes we face the problem that this summative assessment or that formative assessment is not very much suitable to the students, to their level of learning, to their targets, to their interests, and so on and so forth. Even then, we have co-constructed the assessment with them. So to my mind, the interactive assessment means that we should review it all the time, according to the learning or after that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up, because that's exactly what we want to show. Is one way we hope we have made it a little bit more dialogic is like, yes, Ms. Suja.
Yes, this is where we are through the questions that they have framed. Assessment itself was to frame questions so that they can go out and in school. We also assess them further on the way they gathered information from other teachers, presented their information. But the first stage of assessment was frame.
Okay, Ms. Suja.
So when we say interview, it is all about.
See, Ms. Suja, your internet, is it mine? Are you all able to hear Ms. Suja clearly? Can you give a reaction? Because I'm having trouble.
No.
Yeah.
We are facing problem with Suja's internet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's breaking. The voice is breaking.
Yeah, she's in Aurangabad, and I think the internet is like really playing a havoc. So I'll just take over from here. Ms. Suja, I hope your internet stabilizes. But this is an assessment in which they were framing questions, and the assessment actually got over for us when they framed the question. However, do we stop with that because I've done my assessment? Not really, because then it is not, it doesn't have the dialogue. It is not, there is that interactive element is definitely missing. So after they framed the questions and we had finished off one part of the assessment, they went ahead and conducted interviews with the teachers, right? And then they got feedback on their questions, and it was an ongoing process. So we realized that they had not mastered the skill. So what we did is we took this feedback and conducted it multiple times. So something that we planned as an assessment of learning ended up becoming an assessment for learning. And it is when you are open to making that shift that we understand that interactive assessments is possible. One more good example of interactive feedback is 2 weeks prior to their summative assessment, they started having time to work on it, time to start preparing for it. So what you see here is 3 stages of feedback, right? On 3 completely different days. wherein this child has gotten feedback not just from one teacher, but multiple teachers on what they need to focus on, which made it very, very interactive for them as they were able to look, reflect, talk about it with others, and work on their skill. This is one more, and I would like to talk about the developmental aspect here again. This is the same process, right, for this child and this child. However, this child received only 3 stages of feedback because developmentally he was ready only for this. He was not able to incorporate any more feedbacks than this, so we did not insist that he receives more. Whereas for this child, he was a child who was able to look at, take many feedbacks and constantly incorporate it into his assessment, and we did that for him. That is one way in which we made it interactive as well as developmentally appropriate. So quickly jumping on to the second last one, characteristic of assessments, which already many of you have spoken about. It is feedback to feed forward. What are your thoughts on assessment being about feedback to feed forward? Because feedback happens. What about the feed forward part? What are your ideas on how we can achieve assessments such as this?
So knowing the feedback from our students, we can let them go next. So take next steps to get success criteria, to set more challenging objectives, and so on and so forth. So we should analyze all the elements to let our students be more confident. So to analyze their weak points and to help them to cope with them. So we can take one step back and then 2 steps forward. So to my mind.
Absolutely. And this brings up the thing that somebody had put up in the first part of the chat, that assessment should not be of just content or skill. I mean, it needs to be about strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Be it content or skill, right? And we take it forward. Any other thoughts?
So I can ask the students to tell the feedback themselves. I mean, like, to asking just one question: what do you need to improve next time? What do you think? What do you know? Okay, the student, next time I get more information. Like, I want they understand by themselves. Like, what do you need to improve? Not only my feedback, they need to understand by themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you for lifting that up, Ms. Medina.
I just want to add that feedback is something like a closed thing. Only when you have scope for feed forward, if you give a child a feedback, the feedback should have a scope to do improve onto the what you have next. So that scope is in the feed forward, and feed forward makes a cycle a continuous monitoring. Until and unless you do not monitor anything for a longer period, that continuum doesn't come. So feedback and feed forward is like continuous process, which gives you that picture of lifelong learners. So I believe that feedback and feed forward is like continuous lifelong learning happens only there.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Love the ideas. Love how we are.
Yes, I would like to. I would like to share also something like, feedback. Actually, we are giving the feedback, but we should also ask the students. They should give feedbacks for us also. So whether we have anything that we were not able to make them understand, or we have some lackings that they can, actually share with us to improvise. So I think that kind of feedback also will give them liberty to share, be friendly with us, and this will help them, because we are doing the same way. We are asking them, actually, what do you understand? Actually, should I go on this way, or should I follow the other strategy? So they are giving us feedback in that way. So sorry for my voice. I'm suffering from cough. So I think you have understood. It's audible.
I just want to. I just want to add on one thing in this. I made in my class exit slip. So not exactly as you say ongoing assessment, as we say. So whenever we teach any concept, anything, so we always keep that exit slip before they have to go out. They always write. They give their feedback according to the age. So if it's a grade 1 and all, thumbs up, thumbs down, or smiley face. or I'm still confused. So these feedback always help us in further learning.
Yes, we are using emojis also. Right. This is it's a good
So
strategy.
exit slip always help.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Can I
Yes.
say
Thinking
something?
of those strategies. Yes, yes. Sorry.
Remember that this strategy helps our students, letting them know their weak points and asking them what are you going to improve and what are you going to do next. It is better, right, to achieve success criteria. So that's a good way for them to to make them self-regulated students. So when they understand and realize their weak points, how to move, what strategies to use, so they can not only develop their self-management skills, ITL skills, so also they become self-regulated students.
Actually, sometimes we are also asking the students because see, before giving the feedback, we ask them that how the way you want to be assessed. So we are sharing their checklist. They are creating the checklist, and according to that, we are actually assessing. So they feel happy. I found most of them is happy getting stars that make them more happy. They love to, and they want a different type of checklist, not the same way using emojis and this way. Sometimes they also tell us that please anecdotes will be fine for this assessment, checklist will be fine for that assessment. So this is the students agency, they are taking the initiative. So we are trying to involve them in our planning, in our assessment. So this is what feedback should be, I think, in both ways, from both ends. Even the student can share, they can give the feedback to other students also. So they will learn to, abide with with the tolerance, accepting others' ideas. So that is one of the practice you can say of the ITL skills.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And we hope that we have shown different ways in which we have involved other teachers and done a little bit of that continuous assessment. What we are about to show you in practice in our classroom is the end result. What happens when assessment is feedback to feed forward, right? And Ms. Suja, if we can see if your internet connection is a little better and if you want to talk about this.
Okay, I hope I'm audible to everyone right now. Just like most of you shared, that whatever we give as a feedback, whatever we suggest in the feedback should help the child continue and improve on his learning or on skill. And that is exactly what is feedback to feed forward. So here is an exemplar of the anecdotes of end of the unit. So if you see the highlighted part, it talks about a organizational skills. So in one unit, when the student had to work upon his organizational skill, and that particular feedback is given to the student in a very constructive way, it has been taken, and the student has in feedback, he's done his work, he has followed the suggestion that is given by his teacher and his peers, and you can see that development in the following unit where he had organized the information that he has collected, he has practiced his presentation before he presents in front of the class, and then he has achieved that goal. So here is an example of when the feedback becomes a feed forward for the child to improve and develop on.
Yeah, sure. Nice.
So thank you for saying that.
Are you?
Yeah, yes. Anyone else would like to add?
Yeah, Miss, I'm Shrovi. I just want to ask one question regarding Miss. Are you taking the assessment only on ATS skills separately, or you are incorporating with your team and your unit? How you're taking the assessment of ATL skills and learner profile?
Absolutely. So I think I would go back to this rubric here. If you can see, we merge the ATL skills into the into the content itself, right? We have tried a couple of ways, and something that we felt worked very well. For example, I would like to highlight the point wherein the content that we are assessing in this unit or this particular assessment is their understanding of energy transformation, which is a huge, like it's a big chunk of content there. They need to be able to name all the energies. They need to be able to connect, observe, reflect, a lot of things. They need to really know the energy, types of energy really well. One more content that we looked at here, if you think about it, is they need to talk about all 6 simple machines. So they need to know what are those 6 simple machines. And another content we are looking at here was the scientific vocabulary, right? So I have my content sorted, right? However, the way we did it, or the vehicle that we used to assess the content, was the ATL skills, right? And that got a very nice interbalance, or a kind of like a balance to the entire assessment, wherein the child doesn't feel pressurized that, oh my God, I have to remember these things. But because the focus is on the skill, and they find it very easy to set goals about skills, we find it very effective to merge these two.
I just want to add to that for her question is, as she said, skills separately and content separately. The learning outcomes, or the PYP scope and sequence outcome itself, is not content driven or only skill driven. It itself is a merger of everything, concept, skill, everything is all together. So even if you want to purposely do it, you won't be able to do it, because the scope itself is skill as well as content and concept together. So usually, if you want specifically, if you have taken a mini inquiry for skill, that is also will be through content only, because skill is always only a driving force.
Yes.
So you cannot separate it altogether. So the learning outcome itself is together with the content. You cannot differentiate that along. You cannot separate that, I guess.
Yes, so we are including all, ATL skills, everything with the content and context. That is how we are also taking, but there was one question came from somewhere, so I was just to clarify it. So actually, we cannot actually separately take it, because while you are teaching, everything comes into it. Your ATLs comes, your social skills comes, everything comes into it. So while we are, making checklist or rubric, we can also incorporate over there. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So quickly moving on to the next aspect. We would come back to this aspect in a minute, how to make assessment varied. It uses a wide range of tools and strategies that are fit for purpose in order to build a well-rounded picture of student learning. We're not going to talk about this now. We're just going to come back to this. Little bit of focus into assessment as learning, and that came out, a lot of you started talking about how important it is to use or to equip children with that strategy to assess themselves. We need to be open, and we need to be accepting of of what they want to do, right? And our understanding of assessment as learning was a little bit about that. Let's quickly look at what the IB says. So assessment for learning, right, is what we are really trying to understand and know. It's iterative and interactive, and there are a lot of features of assessment for learning. Assessment of learning is mostly at the end of a unit, right, and it's more quantitative and limited student involvement. However, I am actually starting to shift away from this, right? That's a personal anecdote, and it does not, I do not wish to contradict what IB says about it. Assessment as learning is when, as a part of formative process, its goal is to support students in learning how to become a self-regulated lifelong learner. It's not about the content, it's not about the skill. It's about helping them articulate, how am I going to become a self-regulated learner? What are the things that I am going to do, right? And it is intermeshed with for and off learning. So assessment as learning kind of interweaves itself into the other two types of assessment. So one way in which we achieved this was, please take a look at the sample that's put up there. Just about 10 seconds so that you can see what is written there. So basically what we did is for this particular child we were finding it very hard to engage him, right? He was not being very engaging because we realized he is facing certain difficulties and he was not able to fit into our own, when we wanted to conduct an assessment, he was not invested in it. So what could we do? Right, Miss Suja came up with this very interesting way of getting him more involved, which is personal development tracking. If you can see, we have set up an academic goal, or rather the student has set up an academic goal for himself, and he's also set up a self-management goal for himself, wherein for those particular aspects, he has tracked his progress from grade 2, grade 3, and he's also set a goal that in March of grade 3, which is like around last month, where does he want to be at? He assessed himself first and he set where he was in grade 2, where is he in grade 3, and what is his goal at the end of grade 3, which is in March. And we did not have anything to do with this. This is his personal goal, and we just helped him, we just facilitated him in tracking this. So which means we had to have constant dialogues with him. This is something he put up in our anecdote notebook, which is accessible for our learners. When you come into our classroom, you will find this notebook in Ms. Suja's class, open and out there for the learners to access. So they can always come flip through, what was my personal goal, what is my academic goal, how do I take it forward, right? And this saw a huge shift in how the student engaged in the classroom. Ms. Suja, if you would like to say something about that.
Yes, this is where I would like to tell about how important is it to keep the feedback or anecdotes or the data that we gather from the assessment accessible to the students. It's not enough if we assess them and put it in the assessment folder or store it as an e-copy. No, it's very important to make these things accessible to the students so they know that where they stand in terms of their personal growth, in terms of their academic growth, they know how to take your learning forward. I think this is very important in helping our learners become lifelong learners, helping them become more, take responsibilities towards their own learning and own development. Because I have done this in my class, and I know that it is going to be, she writes it down when he knows that he has a bigger goal to achieve.
Yeah. Thank you for putting that across, Ms. Suja. The last part, I am not going to take much on this. So what IB says is the purpose of assessment. We have come to the end of all the characteristics of assessment, and let's just quickly go through what the IB says for the purpose of assessment for students and teachers and parents, right? It says that it's supposed to help students become effective, self-regulated, actively engaged, be able to work on feedback, not just read it, but be able to work on it, reflect, set goals for their learning, and make decisions about what they need to do. So it's not that I'm coming in and, oh, you're bad at this, or you're not that great at this, you're not meeting this, here's something you can do. Yes, that is something we do in the beginning, but then at the end, it is for the children to be able to do this for themselves. Because who comes and tells us? If we think of ourselves as learners, yes, we get some feedback. However, it is what the kind of goals that we set for ourselves that we need to develop in the children as well. For teachers, what is the purpose of assessment? It is to become more effective, continually learn what the students know, adjust their teaching based on the data, offer timely, specific, and well-considered feedback. For parents and guardians, it is about understanding where their child is at and working towards the progress that the child is making and being an active participant, of their child's learning. And that is the purpose of assessment for the three stakeholders as the IB says it. The second last thing is characteristic of assessment. I'm sure many of you would have figured out where we have taken up the characteristics of assessment, and it's nowhere but from the teaching and learning document. And these are the characteristics of effective assessment that the that IB has spoken about. Now we will be sending, so time to self-assess. All of you, lot of sharing, lot of listening. Look at this, make this a checklist, and quickly, this is for self-assessment, not for putting it out into the platform. Assess yourselves on the authenticity of your own assessment, specificity of your own assessment, and on all of these characteristics. Quickly just take out a pen, a paper, or your notepad, and assess yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. Where are you at in terms of all these characteristics? The reason why we want you to do this right now is maybe live it a little bit. This was a session on assessment. Why not we assess ourselves on where we are at? That might give us an insight on how we can take it forward and where we need to focus on in our own practice. So quickly, let's say 10 seconds. Authentic, note down 1 to 10. Where do you stand? Clear and specific. Is your assessment clear and specific? Where do you stand? Is it varied? Is it developmental? Quickly assess yourselves and make a note for yourself. You can also share it on the Padlet that we are going to talk. That we'll share for the end of session reflection. We come to the end of the one part of it. However, we couldn't delve into the pedagogy aspect. We would love to do that because that was very, very interesting for us to think about how this weaves into inquiry. We have an entire section planned on that. So if you would like it, we would definitely like to take it up in maybe another session where we can all just come and chat about, how does inquiry look into our classroom. So please drop me an email or, leave me a comment on the Padlet if you would like to see that session as well. Quickly, the session objectives and a little bit of feedback to us. Please, everybody come on your chat. How many of you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many of you felt that we all developed a shared understanding of the characteristics of assessment? Quickly, just drop it into the chat, all of you. On a scale of 1 to 10, did we achieve this objective? Did we all together develop a shared understanding of the characteristics of assessment? Please drop in the numbers. Yes, I can see numbers starting to come in. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Whoa. All of you. Okay then. So for the second one, the second session objective that we had, okay, so let's stop putting in for the first one. For the second one, recognize the characteristics of effective assessment as recommended by the IB. How, at the end of the session, are you very clear? How clear are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that you now recognize what are the characteristics of effective assessment as recommended by the IB? Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. Last one. We can stop giving the feedback for the second one. The last one, right? The last one is, how many of you got an opportunity to self-assess yourself on your current assessment practices? At the end of your session, did it help you to think back about your own practices in the classroom? And did it help you, to what extent on a scale of 1 to 10, did this session, this interaction rather, help you to self-assess your own assessment practices? Wow, I can see quite a bit. Lovely. Now we had something planned for this, but we've already exceeded on the time limit. I would definitely love to put up another chat on this, and if anybody else would like to also share your ideas and how we can do this better, we would be sending back a reflection form at the end, and please put up your thoughts there. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. It was actually great to see all the teachers from around the world in those difficult times, challenging times, let's say. And I got too many good ideas and information. Just thank you so much. But I would love to again come.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We would love that. We would love to meet you again. We'd love to host something on inquiry pedagogy. and that's something that we're already prepared for, but couldn't share. So any other ideas that you want, that I want to see this in the next session, I want to talk about this, please give in your thoughts on the chat. And me and Suja are around for another couple of minutes.
Thank you, Abhishri.
I just want to share that can we, sorry, sorry, who wants to speak can speak, please.
Please go ahead. We are here for another couple of minutes. We know you all have tight schedules, so those who want to leave now, thank you so much. Ms. Suja, would you like to say your thanks for everybody?
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I got the opportunity to join here because we are, this is the time. It's really important to meet because it's the start time for Muslims. So during that time to join, it's really hard. If you can actually shift the time a little bit earlier in the morning, or as per our, Muslims iftar time, if you can, just avoid this time. I mean, you can.
Yes. Definitely. We'll take that consideration forward as well.
Just the timing. We need to. We love to attend, and we want to discuss deliberately. So, but the only thing, if the time is meeting the iftar, then we cannot join actually. So we'll get through the records only. So there will be no interactive session like that. So that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Any other thoughts? I can see some people have already said what they want to see in the next session, and we've definitely planned something around it to have this conversation happening, to get this conversation going in the PYP. Any other thoughts?
Another suggestion I would like to address regarding our global goals, how we are actually incorporating global goals. It's a new concept for us in Enhanced PYP. So this can be another session that we can discuss about global goals, how we are meeting, how we are going through our inquiry through the global goals, and what activities actually we can do under that. So that will be a best for us. I think this is the most important part now in Enhanced PYP. They're trying to address global goals. So we haven't done before while we started. So this is a new concept for us. So if you can introduce, or if you can share anything, any documents, any strategies, I think it will help.
Wonderful.
All across the world, I think.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up. The global context thing, definitely we'll, we'll talk to other educators out there. I know that many of them are doing some great jobs, and we'll have that conversation going. Any other thoughts?
I just want to know, I don't know how many of you do solo taxonomy. We can sometimes work on solo taxonomy, because I myself do a lot of solo taxonomy. I have attended workshop, I have done workshops with solo taxonomy, and I love the way, it makes it so tangible and so visible, the learning outcomes, and makes student agency so simplistic and so easy. So if sometimes if you want to we can do it together also, if you want to do solo taxonomy, because I have attended one SAIPSA also with solo taxonomy. I have done also myself within my school and my department and everywhere. So we can, sometimes target solo taxonomy, because it makes student very much part of the learning, and it can give, now we being with this online remote learning platform, I think that can make our job a little bit more easier, and differentiation becomes very, very easy. So I think we can also try somewhere solo taxonomy also, which makes things quite easier.
Yeah, I would love to be a part of this solo taxonomy. I would also want to hear about it. So let's see if we can arrange it, organize it, or we become knowledgeable about it, as it is really in, and we really need to follow it for conceptual understanding in a deeper way. Yeah. So
absolutely. So I think we have our idea for the next session. I'll be sending in an email after this, and let's see. I don't want to be a two-host thing. Maybe next time we can all come together, as many people as we can co-host it together, right? So that there is a variety of ideas from different contexts, right? So I will create a Google sheet, a Google slide for people to add in ideas, and I'll share it across with all of you. Thank you, Ms. Tanu, for bringing that up.
No, because I think I really love that, and I've been using it past 1 year in my classroom, solo taxonomy, and I know how wonderfully it works and how it makes my job and my students' job so very easy. Because and I would like to also add that if anybody is interested, sometimes you should also see that Vietnam schools work, because that is some.
Yes.
I love what.
HMC, yeah, and Michael Hughes is doing some amazing work out there.
Yes, and I have taken a lot of activities from them, especially there's weekly goal targets, that is the Moscow, at times Moscow also, and weekly goal targets, and I really do that for my classroom with feedback and feed forward, and it really works wonders. So if anybody would like to try, you can definitely look into it. It's really wonderful to, understand that thing, which is really nice.
Tanu, can I have your email ID, please, if you won't mind?
Yeah, sure.
Drop it. Please drop it on the chat for everybody.
Yeah. Please, please
sure.
do it.
Yeah, I'll do that because I've been part of this IB, past almost like 8 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we did. I mean, I did have it in mind, bringing up solo, but then I really thought let's get the characteristics out of the way, because solo depends so much on incorporating those characteristics into it, scaffolding the different levels.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's
yes. Because I have attended solo. I have done it for my school also, and I very much it's part of my classroom. So solo, and then we attended something like somebody who is. When we did the workshop, it was from that Tokyo International School, Michael, I don't remember his clear name, by him. So it was under his session which we attended. And so that solo taxonomy is very interesting. So if anybody, and then we did assessment with Monita Sen also. So when you were doing that, I was like, okay, recollecting that.
Yeah, Mr. Joshua is saying that he would like to, I think he has read a little bit about it and he's tried it out. So like I said, let's all come together. The people who feel very comfortable, who have a lot of examples, let's come together and co-host it, guys. We would love to see interaction.
Sure, why not? I mean, it's going to be great.
Yes. Anything else? Any last thoughts? Yes, Ms. Suja.
Yeah. I'd like to say thank you to everyone here. I had an amazing learning time with you all. As well as I was able to reflect on my own practices. I have gained a lot from today's session. And I also like to extend my gratitude to Ms. Arina. She was us today, and to Ms. Ekta, because whatever we have done in our classroom, we wouldn't have been able to achieve without your support. They are our co-teachers. We all teach grade 3 to 2 sessions. So I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Zarina and Ms. Ekta. Without you, this wouldn't have been possible. And thank you, Ms. Abhishri. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the opportunity to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Abhishri, I wanted to ask you one thing. Now with this online platform, like if you have to set goals every day and if you have to record the students' reflection, how do you maintain it? Which online platform do you use to maintain your students setting goals and recording? Which platform works convenient, which is student friendly?
I would love to answer this, but maybe I would give an opportunity for others before I pitch in. If you can drop into the chat or just unmute yourself and answer this question. What are some of the tools, online tools we can use to monitor, to maintain records of goals set by students in this online scenario? Yes, Ms. Madina, thank you for joining in. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
So I think Flipgrid is a nice technical tool for students to, for the teachers to record the reflection, and it's very easy, it's user friendly, where they don't have to do anything. They just need to post all the videos, audio recording, video recording, or attach the files what they have done it, and you can then and there you can give the comments. It's so easy. And the second tool is you can use I know everyone must be using Gmail, so they have a Google Drive, so you can use Google Drive or Google Slides to share, and the Google Classroom. is also a very
Yeah,
good
Google
platform.
we were thinking for that.
And there's one more app, a simple app. I don't know whether you all are using it or not. Edmodo, EDMODO,
Yeah.
Edmodo. It's a very good app where you can share the assignments. You can get the assignments done from the students, and these are the three I think good tools. You can get the reflection, I mean feedback from the students, or the what if they will turn in their assignments.
Yeah. So one idea that I have is maybe I'll add this to the resource column in our Padlet. Maybe this aspect of it, and if some of you can just take a screenshot or upload, you know, some actual student reflections. How does it look like in these different platforms? I think that will help teachers a lot. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So thank you, for that. We'll sign off now. Bye bye. See you all next time very, very soon. Thank you, Ms. Suja.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.